Hey, peace, world. Thanks for pressing play on another Pay Me No Mind sports and entertainment video. Doing a little bite down boxing talk. My name is Wood. I may get a bite down boxing podcast out there this week, maybe. But I do have some coverage coming up this weekend. A live stream Friday night with the guest. He'll be fighting on ESPN in the next few weeks. So we'll jump into that Friday night, probably 7 p.m. Eastern time. I'll get the link out there before I say who the fighter is. I'll get that out there probably tomorrow. I really want to jump on and talk about this new Forbes list that came out today. And with boxing landing 5 athletes on the list of the top 100 paid athletes in the world, I thought that was pretty dope. Of course, boxing fan never misses the opportunity to, take shots at whatever and tear down the greater good. But it is what it is. Looking at the rankings, number 4 on that list, cracking the top 10. The only one to crack the top 10 is Canelo Alvarez at a total of 94 million. Number 13 is Anthony Joshua coming in with 55 million. Deontay Wilder is at 56 with 30.5 million. Number 92 is Manny Pacquiao coming in with 26 million. And this is from this June to last June is the period that it focuses on. And then number 95, Gennady Golovkin sneaks in with 25.5 million. The interesting thing here is that Anthony Joshua, who suffered the setback a couple weeks ago with his first loss, he actually he outpaces everybody with $10 million coming outside of the ring. If you take away the endorsement money from some of the other top athletes, such as a Roger Federer, even a Tiger Woods to a degree, if you take away their endorsement money, the boxing guys move up pretty far on that list. And then the other fighters, with the exception of Joshua, the highest one is $2 million for Alvarez in endorsements, $500K in endorsements for Deontay Wilder, Pacquiao $2 million, Gennady Golovkin $2.5 million. So while boxing is gonna struggle. I mean, you look at the type of products and companies that associate themselves willingly with boxing. It's just not, as widespread, or it's not as it just doesn't have that same following. But and 10 million for Joshua, with him taking that hit with his first loss and whatnot, he might have to do some repairing, to his reputation to repeat that next year. Now, the interesting thing is, with that rematch possibly happen, if he has if he is successful in that rematch, then maybe, his business outside of the ring isn't compromised whatsoever. It's very possible. But, a couple of things to take away from this. And like I said, I don't know how we can hate on anybody, what Wilder may or may have not made, what Joshua, where he's ranked at, Canelo, most of his money comes from the, his deal with DAZN. So everything is kind of, cut and dry for him. Again, I don't know how this is bad. I don't know how this is negative for the sport. I will say, though, I think it's a great thing. I mean, for boxing to be on this list, as much as it is, if you factor in something, tennis players, other individual sports like tennis, and you factor in golf, not a lot of those guys. Novak Djokovic, Nadal, I think, pops up on here. Actually, I don't know if I really saw Nadal's name. But the soccer guys are doing very well. Then we have some QBs, some quarterbacks in the NFL. And then we have, a slew of elite level basketball players. Or players on teams that, and why wasn't that? I see Mike, my man from Memphis. But yeah, Phil Mickelson is at number 19. Obviously, Mike Trout and Harper from the Major League Baseball. Clayton Kershaw might even be on here. Auto Racing's Lewis Hamilton. But yeah, Tiger had $9.9 million that he won from golf, and then $54 million coming in endorsements. So, boxing can't compete with that. But the NBA with Durant, Curry, James, all in the top 10. Top 3 guys are soccer players, and Messi, Ronaldo, and Neymar. So I think this is a pretty good look for for the sport. Roger Federer, like I said, winning $7.4 million on the court, and then pulling in another $86 million in endorsements. So like I said, if you take those endorsements out, let's look at this: $53 million for LeBron James at number 8. That's how much his endorsements were. $30 million in endorsements from Neymar, $44 million in endorsements from Ronaldo, $35 million from Messi. So like I said, you factor out that endorsement money, the boxing guys have done pretty well for themselves. But let's look at it though. 2 things where I think it's a chance for boxing to really capitalize on this. Excuse me. The fact that it's a renewed interest in the sport, and we have, Fox putting these guys on network television, ESPN featuring a lot of boxing. It's a chance to, allow somebody like a Deontay Wilder with his ring entrances. I think these are ways to kind of sell the individuality and the freedom and the theatrics of boxing, all of the personalized gear and everything. I think it's a chance, to sell boxing to these kids who might not want to conform, to some of this, the restrictions of the other sports. And LeBron is a guy out here right now that's talking a lot about empowering athletes and taking control of some of their own career and everything. But those CBAs and the nature of those leagues is only going to allow you to do so much. So now it's an opportunity for parents, for young kids, especially, and I'll get into dad here in a minute. But some of these kids may look at some of these guys being on TV and being exposed to, larger audiences. That aspect of boxing might stand out to young kids. Also, if we're talking about these guys making, high $20 million and up. Like I said, with, from Wilder, Joshua, and Alvarez all clearing $30 million, 30 plus million for two or three work days a year, 2 or 3 training camps thrown in there. But it's a chance to do other stuff, of course you're going to have to hustle your way and grind your way to that level. But it's almost a better process than Major League Baseball or the NBA, possibly having to fool around with the G League or, and I'll get to something else with basketball in a second. But that's not a bad year. If you can get you 2 or 3 years at clearing $30 million, and maybe get like I said, 3 to 4 years, 2 to 4 years of that before you hang it up, that's not bad. And that's a real decision that can be made, by a kid or dad. So again, that's one point capitalized on the renewed interest, the renewed focus of boxing, and taking advantage of the individuality of boxing and any of the making it I can't talk tonight, an exciting sport. The Instagram accounts, the guys that are showing, the growth of Gabriel Flores Jr., Shakur Stevenson. Andre Ward was a guy that had a deal with Jordan Brand. It's some different aspects of boxing that Spence having a great night, being embraced by the Dallas Cowboys and doing a big night at AT&T Stadium. So it's some interesting opportunities that boxing affords, fighters. Also, young kids, mom and dad, are continuing to take a look at just got that junk back there in the background. Are continuing to take a look at how to circumvent amateurism. And dealing with the NCAA and going to work for nothing, and not being able to gain any ground there with the athletes getting paid. This again provides a chance for boxing to be looked at and thought of a route that's a little more favorable. And then also, taking a look at, like I said, the process of college football having to go, and that's specifically in terms of the heavyweight division. Having to go to a college, for 3 years beyond your high school graduation before you can go to the pros. This is something that maybe, like I said, dad would have to pick up on. And right now, while maybe there's a renewed interest in trying to figure this thing out, but a renewed interest with dad getting involved, or dad being interested in boxing and sitting there looking at, I got this big son, it's opportunity in the heavyweight division. Let's look into this boxing thing. Let me go down to the local gym and see if my kid takes to it or something. It's a way for some young kids to get steered towards this thing. Also, the injuries that are in football, it's still, the last couple of years, boxing, football has struggled with getting, the turnout in kids for, I'm just going to have to touch it and make it do it. But football, the numbers continue to kind of go down as parents are rethinking, the chances for head injuries and things like that. So now, boxing obviously has its issues with safety, but going through the amateur process with headgear and all of that, it is different. So and then, like I said, my last point or sub point of my second point. Get dad involved. How do we sell dad on boxing? Dad has to sit here and think that, $30 million and up for the top 3 guys. What can my son do? And again, how do we get away from messing with the AAU program and until the NBA decides what it's going to do with doing something with the one and done process. Again, college football, 3 years after high school, the low percentage of kids that actually make it from from college to the NFL, those numbers aren't great. So it's easy for dad to sit here and be watching boxing on Fox and looking at the shoulder programming and seeing that it's a renewed interest in this game, and let me go down here and get involved, and how can I get Junior on this path versus all of this other stuff. So again, I think for 5 fighters to show up on here, regardless of who they are, I think the thing to look at is the money for 2 or 3 nights of work per year. Factor in those 2 to 3, 8 to 10 week training camps. But this is good for this is a good showing for boxing. And like I said, I think with the coverage of boxing and those of us that have these YouTube channels, we contribute to this, and we have a way to make the sport more inviting to new fighters, and to instead of sitting out here with all the vitriol and the hatred and taking shots and all of the bickering and quarreling and all of that stuff. This is a good thing. So that was it, man. I just wanted to talk through that instead of waiting to do a morning wood. I will say that I shout out to the St. Louis Blues. I did predict them this morning going on the road, winning that game 7 in Boston. And shout out to the little lady Layla, the 11-year-old that I think they have a bone marrow situation sorted out for her, but she was able to travel to the game tonight, and she kind of became the I don't know if mascot is the correct word to use for a person, but she was the inspirational figure behind their run to this the Lord Stanley Cup. So shout out to the St. Louis Blues. That's phenomenal. I believe at the halfway point in the year, that was a team that was not, was probably not going to make was not even looking at making the playoffs. And that continues to be one of the things that interests me with hockey, is the fact, both of the number 1 seeds lost this year in the playoffs. So it's just not like the NBA, where we had the same team, going to the finals for 4 or 5 straight years. When LeBron was in the Eastern Conference going for 8 years, the Patriots, being in, winning all the Super Bowls that they have at this point. So that's the dope part of, the NHL game. So anyway, man, let me get on off of here. Hey, man, please consider subscribing to the channel. I don't want to speak on the difference of what I do here with Pay Me No Mind versus and Bite Down Boxing versus some of the other people with channels. But maybe you notice it and want to hang out a little bit more. Come back. Hit the like button. And let me get on out of here, man. You don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great.